Ready? Meeting called to order. This meeting of the Town of Camden Harbor Committee on Tuesday, August 12th is called to order. This is a public meeting. Minutes are recorded. The meeting is broadcast on Zoom and recorded for YouTube replay. Please turn on your microphones. Public commenters, please step up to a microphone. Please direct your comments through the chair and keep your comments on point and concise. Roll call today. Liz Joya not present. Stephen Gold is. Ron Hawkins present. Bob Perkins. Richard Stetson. Elliot Thompson. And Susan Dorr is with us. And no harbor master as of yet. The agenda today, and I had a little trouble with the agenda. I was traveling and with my iPad couldn't access my file on the cloud so I could update it and issue it, but I did get it out late last night. But there are copies for you on the tables here. Meeting minutes assignment for this. Richard Stetson, it's your turn.
Thank you.
You accept that responsibility?
Do I have a choice?
Thank you, Richard. Okay, Richard Stetson is the minutes guy for August. The next meeting, I don't have my calendar out. Janice, do you happen?
I can look on this calendar.
Oh, there it is.
It should be the 9th.
September 9th. Yep.
September 9.
Fix it.
Uh-huh. Okay. So. Second Tuesday in September be September 9. Okay, next item on the agenda, public comments on non-agenda items. I see we have Mike Scaling with us this morning. Mike, do you have something to share?
Michael Scaling, I live in Camden, and I'm the president of the Curtis Island Lighthouse Foundation. I just thought I'd do a couple of updates. And one of the areas that's going to be I guess, tricky or difficult is the landing and access to the island. So we have, we're working on a plan to do that. You know, we had kind of an original plan, but we need to focus on, you know, what is the access? What can it be? How can it be, you know, safe and efficient? And I know from this spring, the many times I've been on the island, it's dangerous getting there, getting on and off, and we need a plan. So we have Jeff Senders volunteered to do the initial engineering work. So we have preliminary engineering, not of any docks or anything, but just of what is the layout, what is the rise, and he's just done an excellent job. I'll just kind of put it out in front here, and I just received these back, but it shows all of the elevations. It shows where the conovers used to land and what they had for landing that was wiped out in the storms, and what I call the kayaker steps, they're needing to be replaced. We received a $25,000 grant from the Maine Lighthouse Trust, and what we want to do is use this grant to redo the stairs and any other temporary access that we can have during the restoration process. So I just wanted you to know that this is moving around. We have a kind of the foundation pieces that we need from which we can then design. And it shows the elevations and how much water there is, if we were to use either the place where the conovers access the island and the place the kayakers typically land. Those seem to be the two most eligible areas for getting there. So our next steps would be to actually start thinking about what is the design, what is it we have to put in, what do we have to get for permits, how do we involve all of you in, coming up with a plan that's going to work. So I don't know if anyone had any thoughts or,
Just a question, Michael. Are you working on access for your construction equipment, et cetera, or permanent?
actually both.
Okay.
I see the kayaker steps, the ones that are in
Yeah.
place now, that's going to be sort of the permanent area. And where the conovers land, that appears to be the place where you can take a ramp, just like they had, down to the big rock outcropping and anchor that as sort of a fixed piece above water line. And then from there down, a ramp that goes onto a float. And if you recall, originally we were thinking of a whole, using steamboat landing floats.
And they disappeared.
Yeah, I don't know quite where they went, but,
Cheaply.
but, pardon?
They went cheaply to somebody.
Okay. I wasn't aware of that. We thought we had our name on it, and the town did not want to put a permanent set of docks out. So anyway, we need something that's,
Are you imagining that your entrance will be tide sensitive or not?
it would be tide sensitive. It would be probably best case, we could land on, high tide
Tide.
plus an hour or two on either side.
You say you could land at high tide, that mean for construction or
Yeah.
all?
Construction. And that's one of the concerns that the town has, is the place being overrun because now there's a easier place to pull up and let people off. And
Well, that's what I was going to ask in terms of the difficulty of figuring out the landing. Is the part you're working on now sort of like the minimal part of the landing, and you don't have to get into that question of, so how much access is actually desirable there?
Yeah.
Or
Mhm.
figuring out what you're doing for that always includes the how much access is good.
it always includes how much access. And those are things that,
Wait a minute,
as
Ronnie?
this is going, developing, we really need whatever policy and how do we control access? Because it is a delicate island. The town has regulations now in terms of how many people should be on the island at any one time. And so what we want to do is have something that's safe and efficient during the restoration process that can then either be taken out or managed. But we're not talking about a whole dock system that goes way out to deep water.
What's the current town limit?
There is no limit.
Oh, I thought you said there was.
There's a preference that I've heard, I don't think there's any defined limit. Susan, I don't know if you,
I don't believe so. I've never seen any.
Yeah. but we just want to be sensitive to the island. And also, we just know, and you all know, how difficult it is to get on an island when you're trying to get equipment and people on when it's, when it's rough out there. So this is sort of the beginning, and what I want to do is make sure we get ideas as we've begin to develop this. There are a couple of possibilities that I'm seeing is a dock that would come down and anchor where the conovers used to, when they used to use to go up and down. That's above water line, so you'd put a rigid set of a ramp of some sort up there that gets you up to the field area. And then from the rock down, you'd have a temporary ramp that went to a float or a couple of floats or a barge or whatever. Billy Glover's offered a barge that they've recently created. I think it's about probably either 10 or 12 by, I think it's like 10 by 24 maybe. And that's something that could sort of be anchored there or pulled in as needed. So we're just coming up with what's going to work. So
What do you think the heaviest piece of equipment or biggest piece of equipment is that you're going to try to get up there?
Yeah. I would say a different tractor, like right now, there's a small tractor on the island, a small John Deere, something a bit larger than that for pulling, either using it as a winch to pull stuff up or using it on the island, getting it on the island. So we're trying to, I think we'll try to do this with really low impact. We're not going to put any big dozers or cement trucks or anything like that. So probably, I don't know, 3,000 to 5,000 pounds. And that's to be determined. So, yeah. So I just wanted you to share that, this is moving and what we're going to need. And Susan, maybe you can help us on this too, is what do we think around a small group to help us noodle this through.
Mike, you mentioned $25,000 grant,
Yeah.
and what's the scope of work for that?
Well, that was to improve access to the island. So it's a very open scope.
That could include construction?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And so far, Jeff donated all of this initial engineering, which is the starting stone for what are we going to put on it and how are we going to do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ron?
I just wondered if I don't see it on the plan, but there's a winch base out there, the foundation for the winch that was used to pull probably their boat up the ramp.
There is one, you think?
Yeah, I know it, and I'm
Oh,
sure.
wow.
Yeah,
Huh.
yeah. So that would identify the location of where the ramp was that the Coast Guard used.
Mm-hmm.
And that was to provide access to the island. And everything that was used to build the lighthouse and the lighthouse
They got a lot of stuff on there.
was transported probably up that ramp.
Mhm.
So
Ron, is you able to show identify the approximate location of that?
no, I'm assuming it's probably either, I don't know which.
I think
Identified as.
I know it would be, there's one of two places it would be.
I would just point out that if you what we have at this point is a couple of sort of beachy areas. They've been cleared of rocks.
Mhm.
Those spaces were cleared at some point.
Yeah.
That's not a natural circumstance. And they were cleared in order to be able to bring boats in and let them ground out without damaging them.
Mhm.
So if we occupy any of that space with a float, then we've lost access. You have in effect one great big boat sitting on the space that was cleared to provide access. And the other point would be that there's not much point in putting a float out there unless it provides you with access on any tide. So if we're going to be constrained by working with the tide, using half tide or a little more to get access to the island, which is not restrictive really in any way. It's just a matter of planning. I think it's important that we keep those beach spaces that were created for access open, not occupied by a float that is now further constrained the access.
Yeah, I mean, there are 3 access points. We've identified 2 of them here, but there's a third one if you're facing the island to the left. That's a wider access, and that's where the big boat chute used to be that went from a boathouse, and they would winch the boat up into the boathouse. And it was kind of a life-saving boat. And they could just, it's on rails. It went all the way down to deep water. And I know where that one was.
Then that winch base is probably right at the head of that space.
But that was winched from inside the boathouse, or just the cables passed through. And
So is that around the corner?
no, it's, if you're facing the island where the kayakers come in on your right,
And then there's the Connors,
the
Hollow.
conovers where they,
yeah.
and then there's a wider space. And it ends up being out near your boat with some big ledge and rocks.
Because I think of that as a pretty steep area, and also sort of from left of the Conovers,
Mhm.
sort of near the corner, there's a line of rocks that show at low tide
Mhm.
coming straight out
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
it. I'll have to look again
Yeah.
today.
So, just one other thing. So what we want to do is start construction, restoration of the lighthouse roof next summer. We wanted to do it this summer. We didn't have enough money when the final figures came in to do that. We know it's going to be expensive, but and also the town has focused on the roof of the light tower, the metalwork, and protecting that. So we're kind of in a period where we're raising money. We've got some major fundraisers going on right now, and we're going to try to have it ready to go for next summer. There's a lot of not wear and tear, but deterioration happening on the light tower as we speak, and on the house. And I'm just concerned with waiting another year to do anything. It really needs to start. And the foundation's goal is to raise money to help the town get that done. Yeah.
Question, will the Coast Guard not help with the restoration of the actual light tower?
They might send some volunteers. I've been talking with them. They would not take it over. They don't own the light tower. The town owns the light tower, and the state has an easement on the light tower. And that easement says any work that's done on it has to go through the state for approval. Whereas the caretaker's house, the state doesn't have an easement on it. And we have an agreement that we would keep it up and take care of it, as a town. So, we've just been working so hard to try to raise the money, pave the way, and, we think it's an absolutely critical time to make it
Where did the
happen.
$25,000 grant come from?
Maine Lighthouse Trust, when you buy the Maine license plate, the lighthouse license plate.
Yep.
So we got a grant. We'll probably go back to them for some more money this year. There's a big, it's $10 million that the state created a bond for funds for restoration of historic places. And that got, with the new administration, that cut some funds, but these are all state funds, $10 million. But the management of those funds, I think, was going to come from federal dollars. And so they're redoing that. But what we know is that money looks like it'll be coming available in late fall, early spring, early winter. And so what I would like is my picture would be the town submit a grant application, probably for around $300,000, and the foundation will provide a 20% match of $60,000 or so. And that will give us really a good foundation to go after the light tower. So we've got a lot of things moving, and I just wanted to try to bring you up to date.
Who pays the light bill, the electric bill for the light?
the Coast Guard owns that. It's all batteries and it's solar and batteries. So there's no power going to the island.
So the Coast Guard does still have a
Yeah, they own the,
current events role.
yeah, yeah, they own the navigational aids. Yeah.
I can't imagine why they wouldn't want to financially contribute to the roof protecting their light.
Well, that's to be explored. I mean, I've had several conversations with the head of the Coast Guard here in Rockland, and he lives in Camden and wants to get out on the island anytime. I mean, I'm ready to take him
There's access.
anytime. Yeah, yeah. But he said, you know, they could send people over to help clean up, some of his guys, help do stuff. Yeah. Okay, well, sorry to take so long, but Thank you.
Could I just make one more suggestion that if a year from now, or whenever, there's going to be a discussion, depending on the access, if there's going to be a limitation on the number of people on the island at any given time, that discussion start early
Mhm.
as opposed to once the access is built.
And that just, I mean, there are limitations right now that's on the books, and I think it's 50 people.
Really?
Certainly communicated.
The problem inherent with that is enforcement.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be an aim, and, you know, that's on the town. I mean, the town does own the island, and what we're trying to do is raise money to facilitate preserving it.
All right, Mike, well, thank you for joining us today and keeping us updated
Thank you.
on developments at Curtis Island. Going back to the agenda, there's an item that I overlooked, and that was approval of the minutes from the meeting on July 8th. Bob Perkins, thank you for preparation of those minutes. There are copies of the minutes on the tables. Any comments, questions about the minutes? I note, well, one item that we had touched on in July was harbor resiliency plan update. And Jeremy mentioned that he would be meeting with Richardson at the end of, or sometime in late August. Susan, do you know if that happened?
We're not at the end of August yet.
Thank God.
That's true, yeah, all right. You can tell, right? I'm not quite back yet. I don't know where I am. Okay, right, so no update on harbor resiliency.
I mean, I
Any-
think I think it's tied in with a lot of other discussions that are going on around the library, you know, the overall overarching plans that are being envisioned for the river and the seawall at the harbor, head of the harbor with the library. So there's a lot of conversations going on, but that piece in particular, I think they're using information from that study to inform the conversations that are happening, but there's nothing solid that's been presented yet.
Okay, thank you, Susan. Any comments on the minutes?
Nope.
Do we have a motion to approve?
I move that we approve the minutes of July.
Second?
Sure.
Richard, thank you. All in favor? And Stephen, you are a voter today?
Oh.
Thank you. So all in favor? Very good. All passed, 5-0. Next item, Harbor Master report. We don't have any Harbor Master present today. Any harbor issues that anybody cares to bring up? Ron?
It was reported, and obviously according to the minutes here, that there's a 30 to 35% of the moorings are currently unoccupied. That's huge. That's,
Well, that was a month and a half ago, though. I don't know what it is now.
well, I'm assuming that it's based on that there's that many moorings that are available.
No, they're all paid for, though. According to Steve, they're all moorings that were paid for on an annual basis, but people hadn't put boats on them.
My understanding is he was just saying that there are 35% empty balls out there right now, not the legal
Well, at
status.
some point in time,
Yeah, well, it was right around the 4th of July weekend.
But he did report that there's a lot of moorings available for smaller boats that he's called around and people don't want them. That was also part of his report.
In my memory of several years ago when I was on the list for a small boat, he called me twice in 3 months. And at that time it was that if you're, I don't know what it was, 20 feet and under, 25 feet and under, it's not that hard to get a mooring. If you're 40 feet plus, then you're on that list.
Exactly. So that's the point I'm approaching here, is that if we have a surplus of small boat moorings and a lack of large boat moorings, then maybe it needs to be reassessed and say, okay, let's take a few small boat moorings out and open up some space for larger boats.
Yeah, and I'm sure the next part of the conversation will be that, depth and appropriateness for larger boats, swinging, et cetera.
So that would be the place to focus on, would be if there's small boats that are occupying space that could be occupied by larger boats, then that's where the focus should be. I mean, I've been on the move-in list for 10 years,
For what size boat?
40 foot.
Yeah.
And, so I'm patiently waiting to be moved in from Sherman's Cove. Not happening. So
We're just trying to keep you in shape.
I don't mind rowing. I enjoy the row. I wish there were more people that were rowing.
Probably doesn't like the rolling.
Well, that's the biggest part of it, is that even on what appears to be pleasant days, like the last few days, it's been windy in the afternoon and it's been from the southeast, and there's a chop out
That
there.
roll, yeah.
And it's just not conducive to going out there and getting work done on your boat, or for that matter, even having an enjoyable sail. It's anyway, the point I'm getting at is, and it's the same, we'll have the conversation regarding dinghies later, but we have a limited resource and we have a responsibility to manage that resource, provide as much access as possible, but yet not impinge on the ability to enjoy, for everyone to enjoy the resource without being encumbered by
I think it's
an excess of either idle moorings or idle dinghies.
I think we ought to include it. It's not the exact same conversations, but just like with the steamboat landing or the public landing dinghy conversation that we're definitely going to have, that your point about the moorings, it's not just the waiting list, but whether they should be realigned in terms of size offerings.
Okay, well, I'd like to get the harbor master input, of course, on this.
No,
issue.
that's what I'm saying. It's part of a conversation, and he may blow us away by saying, here are where the moorings are, and there's only X amount of water there, and you don't want bigger boats at that depth or in close, whatever. I'm not making up what he's going to say.
Mr. Chairman,
Stephen?
could we please mandate somehow that the harbor master be at all harbor committee meetings? I mean, 2 hours a month, so many times we get into discussions that could use his input, that I find it a little ridiculous for him not to be here.
Well, the harbor master, I appreciate your comment. It is important that we get his participation. He does attend fairly regularly, just looking over the past 8 months. This is the second that he has missed, second meeting. But I don't know if I have the authority, if the committee has the authority to mandate the harbor master's participation, but I will make an effort to reinforce that we'd like him to join us. And that the mooring availability will include for the next meeting. And hopefully he'll be here for that.
I agree about the importance of him being here. He contributes a lot of information. I am a little more forgiving on the second week in August. I have no idea what he is or isn't doing.
Right. Okay, moving on in the agenda, we have a memorial bench application. Jimmy sent me the application a couple of weeks ago. Again, I was out of town and I failed to forward that on to the committee members. The application is from Victoria Dudera in memory of Ed Dudera. And she has the text here, in memory of Ed Dudera, a guiding light in our lives. And her explanation of Ed's association, longtime 38-year resident, budget committee chair, downtown lawyer. Any discussion on a memorial application for Ed Dudera?
I move that we accept the application for Ed Dudera's memorial bench.
And do we have a second for that motion? Ron, thank you. Discussion about memorial application?
I just want to be reminded, because we had a fairly intense discussion that has gone in one ear and out the other in terms of my memory of what the ordinance says about what qualifies. And my vague memory is that it was pretty loose. But
What do you mean, I'm looking at it right
that
now.
what, to put it loosely, does every Tom, Dick, and Harry get a memorial bench if you pay the money? Or are there real standards that we are meant to see that someone's articulated?
There are guidelines around size, maintenance, and then sponsoring. There isn't anything specific regards the fees and the duration that can, the bench could be returned to them if they choose to stop sponsoring the bench. But there isn't anything regarding termination or orphans. It doesn't spell out.
Yeah, I haven't looked at that recently, but
Yeah.
it's not terribly specific.
It's not at all.
What about locate? Do we know where this bench is meant to be?
So
Master would be able to tell us.
in 2001, there was room for 12 benches. And I don't know how many there are down there now. The Harbor Committee reserves the right to approve text. Donors will pay the fees for the cost and a 10-year maintenance plan. Public notice when there's space available. It's pretty open, but it doesn't, it doesn't, this hasn't been updated as to how many, most recently it was,
When we had the discussion for the
2003.
most recent application, I
mhm,
believe Steve implied there was room for several benches.
yeah.
And with this application, does it basically mean that the public is getting a new bench with this plaque on it and there's an obligation to maintain it? Or is there's just a new plaque put on an existing bench?
No, I think it's a new bench.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like new benches.
And I think he had already ordered several parts for new benches. He's ahead of it on inventory.
Harbor and Waterways Ordinance Appendix E, Memorial Bench Policy. Item, new memorial benches. Item 8, the Harbor Committee reserves the right to approve applications with the criteria being a satisfactory demonstration of association with the town of Camden. And that's about the only qualification that's included in the policy.
If you've been on the budget committee, you've suffered enough to get a bench.
Okay, so we've had a motion to approve. Any other discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? An abstention? Ron, you're not participating in the vote?
I just realized that my appointment expired on June 30th.
Right, but I thought
Well,
everyone,
that's
But until a select board does anything.
That's been
still-
continued until the select board's
So I can keep
The
going.
Application.
select board doesn't have a great track record of dealing.
they
with-
continued it until the death of all members currently on the board,
Right.
at which time they will reappoint.
So would you like to exercise your ability to vote on the memorial bench for Ed Dudera?
Yes,
And are you in favor?
yes.
Okay, that's 5-0 in favor. Very good.
Yes, technically, I think I'm no longer a member at this
Oh, yeah.
precise time.
Okay, moving on, dinghies.
Do we know when, and if there will be action on the various applicants to be?
I believe that at our meeting next week, we'll go over the applications.
Mhm. Okay. Next item on the agenda, dinghies. And first item I have listed there is specifications per ordinance. Can anyone point out in the ordinance where there are, where the specifications for a dinghy are defined? Dinghy is not included in definitions. Richard, yes.
I don't remember.
I couldn't find anything.
There is something.
And
There it is. It's
yeah, where is it? And I've always had the 14-foot length specification in mind. Do we know where that comes from?
it's in the ordinance.
It's in the ordinance. It's buried in here
It's
somewhere.
buried, yeah.
It's not in definitions.
No,
No, it's not in definitions.
Is there,
Might be in permitting
yeah,
somewhere.
see, it might be in permits.
Okay. Permits. Okay, well, while we look for the specifications,
I'm reminded of the baseball umpire I can't define a strike, but I know one when I see one.
All right, well, thank you, Bob. Yeah, that's good. Well, I can skip down to permits for 2025. Jimmy updated me this morning and she believes the count is up 207. And she said there were just permits issued this in the past week. She said 3 or 4 in the past week.
And that's sort of for generically dinghies at steamboat, public landing, whatever.
Yeah.
Kayaks.
Wherever. Yeah.
So I found under town docks, floats and berthing slips. May I?
Yeah,
Okay. So the following regulations shall pertain to the use of the town floats assigned for vessels at the town landing. No person shall leave an unattended vessel berthed unless the person has permission by the harbor master. And then it says, the harbor master shall assign numbers annually to dinghies, tenders, skiffs, and other vessels regularly tied or stored on designated town floats. These numbers shall be visibly attached to the vessel, blah, blah, blah. Said vessels shall not be over 14 feet in length or have a beam over 6 feet and shall be tied to designated floats only. Such vessel must be properly and reasonably maintained. The owner of any vessel which is not maintained, secured, or town registered shall lose privileges to tie to said float. Sounds like there's a size.
There you go. Can you cite the section for that?
It's 108-17 subsection B.
and what, can you read the more, and honestly, I feel like, I'm not sure how much we should look at the old. I think we should be, defining things by current uses, because that, every one of those things about skiffs, dinghies, et cetera, does not sound like an outboard. Doesn't even mention how they're powered, and I suspect that from the use of that language that they were thinking about something different than people see now. And I'm not saying what's there now shouldn't be. I'm just saying that we should have definitions that, take into account how small boats have evolved in the last 25, 30 years.
Yeah, there's no mention whether they're powered or not.
Are you gonna ask me to read it?
No, just for your benefit, there it is. And
Dinghies, tenders, skiffs, and other vessels. Vessels under 14 feet. That seems like a contradiction in terms to me.
Well,
I
what,
don't think of a 13-foot vessel.
I mean, if
Well,
anything,
vessel is in definitions somewhere, so you'll have to, the ordinance has done that work for us.
so 2025 permits to date.
207.
She told me 207 this morning.
Does she know how many are kayaks?
No, there's no breakdown on type of vessel.
So where would it, so we think that amongst the 200 would be kayaks that are on racks?
I'm not sure. I don't know if they require permits.
Yeah, they do.
They do?
No.
Now, I don't know about the enforcement level of that, but
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
It's
Thanks,
a dinghy
Michael.
permit for a kayak.
You do.
But
You need it for the racks at Lake McGuntacook?
Lake Beach, yes. Yeah.
No, not
well,
Lake
actually, I
Beach.
wonder whether that's part of this number is, because you get a lot of boats that live in the water there, you get a lot of boats that stay on storage. I can't imagine 225 in the salt water.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's crowded, but there
Not-
aren't
not that
200 boats
crowded.
there. Yeah.
Even counting all the kayaks?
Well, that's what I'm
Well, I'm not
wondering.
sure how many that's part of the question is,
I don't
There's
think
not
there's
that many
10
steamboat.
kayaks in the water on the dinghy dock.
No, but they required to get a dinghy permit to use the
Right.
racks
but we have racks at Steamboat,
and Lake Beach.
Lake Beach, that's still not that.
And also, what do they call that area of the lake or the river that's on on 105.
Bog Bridge.
Yeah, the bog. There were
Bridge.
racks there,
Racks and boats.
yeah.
Okay. All right.
Anyway, obviously, a big problem is the harbor. In terms of space.
Yeah, I would consider frankly the rack space question a totally different discussion.
Yeah,
And I just think that it's, at some point, we should have maybe go by geography. Let's talk about Steamboat, let's talk about public landing, let's talk about head of the harbor, whatever. Just conceptually, I don't know when the ordinance was done, but I know that the boats that are tied up have everywhere, not just in Camden, have evolved so much over time.
Well, this mention of dinghies and tenders and skiffs, the following regulation shall pertain to the use of town floats.
Everywhere. Same regulation.
Assigned for vessels at the town landing.
That's interesting.
well, the town
It
floats
implies
also
that it-
steamboat.
Yeah, but if this was done ahead of time, then their Steamboat didn't exist as a tie-up.
Probably not when this ordinance was written.
Right. I mean, I remember being at the town landing and rowing out around the corner out to my boat. And then when Steamboat came along, I was, oh my God, I got like a 25% of the row.
Approximately when was that?
Late.
Well, let's see, Max was born in 1999 and I had to row him to the public landing and discovered just as I was approaching it, he did not have any pants or a diaper on. And it was July. So that tells me that Steamboat was not there in 2000, but I think it was right after that.
The floats have been there. That launching ramp was first constructed about 25 years ago.
Yeah.
Give or take.
About 2000.
Yeah. So it may have been 99.
Right.
So Jimmy shared that last year, the permits number was 196. So approximately 10 is 5%, roughly 5% increase just over the last year.
196, you said?
196 and 24. It would be, I think, beneficial to understand the type of vessels that are getting permits and see if we could categorize those, kayaks being an obvious distinction, kayaks and canoes.
But I wonder whether in the issuing process, my memory is that you fill out the application, it's really just how long it is.
Yeah, it doesn't say much.
So there, I don't think this town will have that. I think it's going to be more of a Steve or someone taking an inventory, going down on a given day and saying Steamboat has 25 boats of this, public landing, X number.
Collecting a little more information
Right.
in the permitting process would not be hard.
Well,
just-
perhaps changing the permit application in terms of classifying identifying the type of vessel. And there is a requirement for doing that on the existing permit. And I don't have a copy of the permit. Perhaps it's online.
And what's the issue?
Yeah,
Figuring out what the boat population is right now, because
Right,
a lot of the
How
boats.
many inflatables?
because I've heard you mention before, oversized, overpowered, are you keeping just rowing or are you keeping a size limit so that small boats have access? As somebody mentioned last time that there was an actual, like a whaler tied up at Steamboat. So I think the more you can clarify what it is that you're trying to figure out.
Well, I think if I was looking for a census, so to speak, length, width, general type of boat, propulsion and horsepower. You know, and it's strange because you can get smaller boats that still have 25 horse on them. That, although then once they start leaving the engine up, that engine sticks out farther and is.
Yeah, the definition of length needs some clarification.
And I think we are, well, actually, I'm not sure we do have a regulation that you're meant to have your engine down. I
No,
thought
I
we
don't
did,
believe
but
so.
from what was just read, but I see these engines up with the propellers and the fin and boats right next to it. It's insane.
It is. It's ridiculous. I mean, we're not providing a safe place to tie a boat up where it won't get destroyed. I mean, steamboat landing, it's going to get destroyed there just by the wave action. It's just, unless it's an inflatable. And then if somebody brings an aluminum boat in alongside of whatever your wooden boat happens to be, or even your inflatable, it could chafe to a considerable
And
extent.
chafing is, I think, part of the assumed risk.
It is, it certainly is, a steamboat
Having an
landing.
engine coming down on the side of your boat is not something you normally.
Because a lot of places require that the engines be left down.
Yeah.
For just that reason.
The permit application information requested is boat make, boat length, hull ID, dinghy shall not exceed 14 foot, total vessel length. Does dinghy have a motor? And it states no dinghies or watercraft over 14 foot. Total vessel length will be permitted. But make, length, and the hull ID.
We do define total vessel length in the ordinance under definitions.
And that would be applicable to the dinghy question.
And particularly relevant to the dinghy with outboard question.
I think the ordinance says as docked,
Good.
which takes into consideration that the vessel configuration might change somewhat from how it's being operated to how it's being docked.
Well, and I'm just going by what I think I casually observed out in North Haven, that used to be, a free-for-all, and you'd have 13-foot whalers with the dinghies and all. But now, motorized vessels have a float, rowboats have a float. And if we took a comprehensive look at what we have to offer the public, we could be, this is a motor float, this is a row float, et cetera. And I just think the whole question should be looked at fresh, not trying to tinker with the 20th century ordinance.
I think it's, I think in the 20th century ordinance, they understood what a dinghy looked like. They understood what a tender was. They understood what a skiff was. They
And I
didn't see the necessity to get bogged down in a clear definition of any one of those. They just covered the whole gambit. It's basically a tender that's the boat that you're tending the big boat with. So yeah, they didn't get involved in defining it because it just was clearly understood what those words meant. Now we have canoes and kayaks and all sorts of, paddle boards, any number of other means of transportation that are being imposed on the facility.
So I haven't been to the public landing lately, but are kayaks stored on top of the floats that are right
No.
next to the wall?
No,
They're in the water.
So that continues to, And on those floats, where the boat comes out of the water and gets flipped, are those all row, or are there motorboats along the wall there?
Some of them are
There are some
inflatables with motors
motorboats.
on them.
That come
But
out, and they come out.
Yeah, but I don't know that there's, I mean, do we have a policy? Is there a policy that you can't put a kayak on those floats? Because we certainly don't have an ordinance.
Right.
That's
Are you
right.
talking
I
about
think that would
steamboat
be-
or? are you talking
Either
about
one.
steamboat?
You know, we've established,
The dinghy floats in front of the harbor master office is
Yeah.
what we're talking about. I
Yeah.
think kayaks on those would be awkward because I suspect those floats are 8 feet wide at the most.
Yep.
And
It
Kayaks
would
may also
interfere
not-
with maneuvering in that very limited space. The other thing is, we do have an elderly population, and climbing that ladder at low tide, it's a slimy adventure. I would just like to introduce one thing, and that is, there's an obvious division and prejudice in this group between those who row and those who don't row. And it seems to me the real problem is overcrowding. And an additional problem about motorized boats may be those with square transoms, with a motor up, can potentially damage other boats. Most inflatables that have a motor up, at least in the 12 footers or so, the pontoons extend such that it protects the motor from hurting anybody. So,
just barely.
all right, but, I don't know, I have an inflatable whose motor has been damaged by other boats, but not, it's chafing. I think as long as we keep within size restrictions, then starting to talk about how much horsepower doesn't seem to me that it's relevant to affecting the problem. Out at the boat show last weekend, I was looking at this electric motor that was 100 horsepower, and it was
Which
no
is big as
bigger.
that microphone.
Yeah, it was not very big.
I want to clear up the prejudice thing, because what I'm talking about is adapting our float space to how the fleet has evolved. And it's not to say that people with motors shouldn't be able to access the harbor. But and I'm just making this up off the fly. But it's a lot easier to take a motor from the public landing out to Sherman's Cove than it is to row there. So it may be the location will take into account the kind of power and keep the two types of boats from damaging each other.
Location of,
That, like I mentioned, that you look at other harbors and you'll see a float that's for motorized dinghies, and you'll see a float that's for human powered. And we have multiple places, and maybe we can create more places that would then allow people to separate out the types of boats. Right now, we're just saying it's a free-for-all because I'm sitting here going, boy, are you shaming the victim when my rowboat gets chewed by your engine and you say you damaged my engine? It's,
I
There's
know
a
it was
way
your
to-
boat.
well, my
No,
boat
but for
hasn't damaged
example-
anyone for about 6 weeks.
He's never, for a matter of convenience and location, he's never going to leave his precious rowboat at Steamboat Landing. Right?
correct. There's no place in Camden Harbor that I can tie that 15-foot lap straight peapod up and not have it get destroyed with a very short
Well, there
order.
you go. You're already beyond the limit. So
Well, that's one
town
reason,
landing isn't for you.
that's one reason why I
Does the
don't,
yacht club not have a restriction?
that's one reason why I don't have access at Camden I don't buy a dinghy permit.
Right.
So I would put my name on the list in order to get a finger float at the head of the harbor. But I had to put my name on the list at the yacht club as well.
Yeah.
It took-
What's the
it took,
bottom
I think,
limit on
about
finger floats?
It took about
What's the what?
4 years to get,
Bottom limit.
place to keep-
Finger float, it can't be an 8-foot boat and get a get a finger float in the inner harbor. There's a size range, right?
There's a maximum
Right.
22 feet. I
There's
believe.
not a minimum?
No.
At any rate, what we're dancing all around here is the congestion.
Mhm.
You know, we've got issues that come with that congestion, which is chafing. Chafing is inherent with steamboat landing. It wouldn't matter if there were no other boats tied up there. The sea conditions create a chafing situation that unless you're willing to experience that damage to your boat, that's probably not the prudent place to put it. So if you know, prudent mariners try to protect their boats from damage at all costs.
Well, I just wonder whether another larger part of this conversation is, are there ways to increase the available in-water storage, or actually, public land is not in water, the float storage question? You know, we had a location up until roughly 2000, then we had steamboat landing, which then got overcrowded. Is there another new location or expansion that could be done to create some more dinghy storage space?
Elliot had an idea to go
Mr.
out to the
Chairman,
end of Steamboat Landing and
Mr.
build
Chairman,
some floats out to the right.
Yes, Ron.
could we confine this to addressing the chairman to speak and not be talking over each other?
Good idea.
I think we have a situation where we may be on the brink of requiring a waiting list for dinghies. We have waiting lists for every other boat storage space in the harbor. We have long waiting, I mean, years of waiting for an inner harbor float, for instance. So why aren't we thinking, rather than constantly emphasizing where can we put more kayak racks, where can we store more canoes, where can we put more dinghies, we may just have to confront the reality that we've used up the available space for dinghies, skiffs, kayaks, canoes, whatever it is that people choose to use to gain access to their bigger boat. Or maybe they're just using that as their primary means of recreation or transportation. They may, you know, so if we're at a point where what we're talking about is we've reached total absorption in terms of spaces to keep boats at the town, at any town facility, lake or saltwater, either one. The pressure is consistent and increasing. And so trying to constantly, and we end up polluting our facilities. That's my term, which I think is applicable, but not everyone will agree that that imposing kayaks on what was designed to be a green space for everyone to use and be able to appreciate and be able to enjoy is now being imposed upon by people who have kayaks that think that their access takes priority over everyone else's. So it's the same old challenge, and it was in my application to be on this board. We need to focus on how we on the challenge of allocating a limited resource. And if the dinghies require a waiting list, then so be it. We've got waiting lists for every other space.
Right. And I don't disagree that that's another one of the conversations, but I first want to find out that we really don't have any way to increase the space.
Well, find out. I mean, that's going to be a matter of opinion. My opinion is that we've already looked too far for additional space to keep kayaks and canoes and paddle boards or whatever else it is that people have chosen to store in a town facility rather than storing at their house.
Elliot?
Kayaks or grab and go, so to speak,
Well, I think that's
right off the roof of your car into the water.
That's why they're configured the way they are. That's why they're designed the way they are, in my opinion. So we're making allowance for people to store a particular kind of craft, which was, I mean, never intended to be left in the water all the time.
I don't think many kayaks are left in the water, though.
Okay, thank you. Susan, do you have a comment?
I'm just impressed that this conversation is being based purely on opinions and speculation. And it sounds like what needs to happen, because Elliot, you and I had talked about whether or not there's an ordinance review in the making, or if there's a need to look at some of these chapters in the code. And there hasn't been a survey of how many boats are being stored where and what kind of boats and, because the ordinance clearly is much more vague than the current need addresses. It's just, to put a lot of time into saying, in my opinion, which I respect both of your opinions, but that's not data. And, if there's going to be a comprehensive look at what's in the water and what needs to be stored, it's a matter of going to all the locations and counting and seeing what's permitted and what's being provided, I guess. I mean, it just seems like that would be a next step that would be really helpful in determining what else we need, or how do we limit the resource. Because I agree that the resource is limited, but how do we determine how to best use it?
Susan, you mentioned survey, and I think could you elaborate on how you conceive a survey?
Well, I'm just thinking of, initially a good count. And, to go to the various places. So we've got storage at Lake Beach, we've got storage in the inner harbor, we've got steamboat, we've got, those access points. There's a little kayak rack down at the end of Marine Avenue, I think, that somebody created. And so a few people can pop their boats in there to get out to Steamboat, or out into Sherman's Cove. So it's just, to me, the way my mind works, it's like, well, I would like to know what the data looks like. And that's just a matter of, it could be kind of fun to go around with a clipboard and do a count. And then
A physical survey.
A physical survey. Because if the, people that are, I don't think that you need a permit to use the kayak rack at Steamboat, or because those are used for kayaks and paddle boards. As far as I know, I don't think that that the dinghy permits apply to those small boats that people can, because you can use those on a daily, or you can, you use them longer. But I just think a data-driven conversation would be valuable at this
But they
point.
do or don't apply at Lake Beach.
What's that?
At Lake Beach, do you need a dinghy permit for those racks?
I don't know the answer to that. So
Yes.
I think that there's enough information to be gathered to really help make this conversation a lot more
Mhm.
fruitful.
I
Now,
had-
Bob, please. Ron, you had a comment?
Your issue with opinion, it's based on observation.
I don't have an issue with your opinion at all. I'm just saying,
No, I understand, and you made that clear.
Mhm.
But the opinions are based on firsthand observation.
Mhm.
So it's not hearsay. And it would be very simple in the application process to have a list of boxes that you're applying for your permit for. Is it a kayak? If it is, check the kayak box. If it's a canoe, check the canoe box. If it's a, there's going to be some confusion as to whether or not it's a dinghy, tender, or a skiff. To me, those are all sort of the same thing.
But, that coming from the user side is valuable, but I think from the provider side, we don't have a really clear picture of what the capacity of the resource is. So before we issue permits, we need to know we have X amount of spaces for X amount of boats. And I don't see anywhere where we've really got that data, especially with the introduction of the kayaks and the racks and the other small
Correct.
boats. So that, I'm
But
just
I
suggesting.
know some people like to put their inflatable or their dinghy on the float in front of the harbor master's building. They use their dinghy, they come back, their space has been taken. So there isn't a consistent use of each individual use. It's sort of fluid. They put the boat wherever they can find a place to put it, squeeze another boat in. I'm just based on my observation, where the conversation is based in overcrowding. Whether it's the chafing, the engines left up, causing damage to another person's boat. It's, to me, all falls under the heading of overcrowding. I think that's why I'm
Yeah, so
suggesting
then that begs the
perhaps
question, do we, enumerate what the capacity is and then only allow as much as the capacity can handle? I mean, I think we're talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm just coming at it, and
But I think if we can all sort of agree that we've perhaps reached the apex, we've reached the saturation limit on availability for dinghy placement, then, and we know what those numbers are now, we know how many dinghy permits have been issued. So maybe it would be just simple for now, because I don't have the time to do a survey. I mean, that's not going to be something I can help with. So maybe we just have to accept that perhaps we're at the absorption limit, and maybe 200 is the magic number, and just impose that for now and see how that works.
I have to leave in 2 minutes.
You have it.
Just two things, because I have to leave. One is, it would be very simple in the first stage of getting information to go look at the pile of permits and see how many boats have a width of 3 feet or less. That'll tell you how many of these permits are kayaks or canoes, et cetera. The other thing I just wanted to mention for anyone who may care, on Thursday, I believe the 14th, it's going to be a sort of a ceremony. And you would get in touch with Steve, because I think he's taking a town boat out to spread the ashes of Jim Leo, former assistant harbor master.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. Okay, so,
I'm trying to raise my hand behind you.
yes, Bob.
I think we should have a survey done, and it needs to be done before Labor Day. And I don't think it would be that hard to do that says, I'm just making it up, on August 20th, between 3 o'clock and 5 o'clock, there were X number of this, that, and that type of boats at Steamboat, at Public Landing, on the racks in the various different places there are racks. And then we would have real data about how it's being used and what it, I don't think just saying, well, we have 225 permits gets us very far, because I think those permits are probably for all sorts of different things, and we don't have the real data is who's using it and how crowded is it on any given time in the summer.
Anyway, I'll do that. I'm down there all the time. Certainly in the town dock, I'll just count the boats.
But we need to do it.
I would work on that with you. I mean, I think that I like that idea. Like, let's do a snapshot and get out there and
I can do it in the next week, and then I'm not around much, but I think it has to be, we need it before Labor Day while it's still busy.
Yeah.
And we need to not just say how many boats, but that how many boats have engines, how many boats are rubber, how many boats are kayaks, et cetera, at the given locations, so that we have a picture of, okay, And I guess the other thing would be a little subjective is, at the time of the survey, would you say that it seemed like a comfortable fit, or it was,
It's never a comfortable fit down in the harbor, that's.
everyone's.
Well, why don't we
I would
coordinate a time
Okay.
to do that in the next week?
I would
And
suggest
I'm
that
delighted
we-
to
in the morning.
participate.
First thing in the morning, rather than.
Yeah,
And on a weekday, when the weekend boaters aren't out with their dinghies.
but you're right, not at noon when boats are away from the floats, but
I'm going to send an email right now to.
Okay, Ron, yes?
I would like to add another category to your survey. How many boats are obviously neglected?
well, that's self-incrimination, Ron.
No.
For me.
Well, I mean, if they're.
You mean that
we haven't-
are down there full of water and stuff like that?
And just obviously haven't been used or aren't being used. I mean, if it, and I, obviously that's going to be a very subjective.
Well,
But I mean, it would be obvious to some people that, yeah, that boat hasn't been used in a week and a half or two, or maybe even hasn't been used all summer.
and this is just a snapshot because, for example, right now, my boat's been out on the mooring for a month. In part to not have overcrowding and in part to keep it from getting beaten up because my motorboat's in North Haven. But so there will, it's not a complete capacity, but it'd just be good to know in the heart of the summer, what's the population at those floats on a given day.
All right, good. So let's identify the places to be surveyed.
Obviously Steamboat and the public landing. Are there other places that you can leave your hull in salt water?
So are you talking about in water all the time or on racks as well? Do you want the rack
Well, there seems,
storage to be included?
well, there seems to be some ambiguity as to whether or not a boat that's in a rack requires a dinghy permit or not.
Right.
And if they don't, then they certainly should. But, because we're providing, I suspect that there's another category that you can identify. Is there, how many boats are there that don't have stickers on them? As part of your observation, part of your survey.
Yeah, but compliance isn't really.
Well, if we're
Well,
looking for,
But that's the handicap of a snapshot, is that it will provide you exactly that. It's
but I
just
think that aren't we looking to see, I'm sorry,
No, that's right.
aren't we looking to see the capacity question? How many are actually there, of what type? And if they're an overnight boat that rode in and happened to be caught in the survey, I'm not sure we really care. We care that there's a certain type of boat there at that given moment, more than
Yeah.
the sticker status.
Well, it comes down to, are we gonna look at the snapshot with a magnifying glass, or are
I
we
think we
just
ought to be
gonna?
looking at the snapshot from your original point of what is our capacity, to handle saltwater boats. We'll keep it. I don't even know how to define it because there's the ones that public landing come out of the water, but they relate to the float. The storage racks is a separate question, but if we're doing this, it's going to come up. And I don't even know Susan, do you know if those kayak racks at Bog Bridge, whether people pay the town to use them? Because I vaguely remember that someone was kind of like making a business out of it.
Yes, that is my understanding. It's Brian Robinson, which is
More than a little dicey,
a
frankly.
little contentious for people who are, because that's public property with a private,
Right.
yeah, that's,
And there's Barrett's Cove, which also has racks.
which are not, as far as I know. Well, let me dig into that a little bit more too, but that's my understanding, is that the ones at Bog Bridge, Brian installed those and people are charged for using them.
That's my understanding.
And then there are
Yeah.
moorings out in the water there that I
Which
think were
are
part of the
just,
same
people
thing.
just drop those
Really?
in, that's a little bit, the McGonagall Watershed Association is trying to figure that out because there really is no oversight
And there's
for
getting,
that.
my vague memory was that there were also meant to be a limited number, like in the Barrett's Cove area between McGonagall Rowing and the launching ramp. And this just gotten to be more and more. And I don't know if it's
Well, that's,
single dropping their private moorings or what.
and that's an inherent issue because if we're going to limit the number, then why not limit it to 0? Who gave, how did it become established that it was okay to put moorings in the lake?
We're not dealing with the lake.
It's, no, you're right. You're right. It's none of our business as a harbor committee.
The town does have an inland harbor master,
We do.
which is
Yeah.
distinct from,
So maybe they need an inland harbor committee.
Okay, we've talked about the need for doing a survey before Labor Day on a weekday morning.
And Susan, I'd be happy to help somewhere.
Yeah, I'm sending an email. I don't have the whole committee's emails are not coming up for me, but I'm sending it to Elliot and
Okay,
he forwarded.
do we want to select a day right now?
Mondays and Wednesdays are best for me in the morning, but if we're gonna go early, any day.
Define early.
7,
Monday, the 18th.
That's the last day I can do it.
I can't do it that morning. I know I have a,
but Steve said that he would be available.
I mean, we don't have, especially in terms of my
Wednesday is
urge
better.
for sooner than later, I'm particularly thinking of the saltwater. Because I'm
Yeah,
not sure that
yeah.
the kayak docks, which even if it's not it's going to be part of this ordinance review. So I think having a consistent inventory of everything would be helpful. But I don't think that the kayak racks are going to get that much less busy immediately after Labor Day. I think the harbor does.
Monday, August 18. Nine a.m.
Elegant.
And is it envisioned that this will be a tape measure activity?
I
Or
would
is it just estimation? Okay.
I think the types of boats is more, that whether something is, and maybe I can actually think of one of the boats at Steamboat that is a rowing boat, but clearly looks longer than 14 feet to me. But for the most part, I'm not sure that that's the critical ingredients. It's the types of boats and how they fit together and whether if we segregated the use, how many, if we were saying, well, we need to find a place for motorboats, well, how much of the current boats are motorized is more important than the exact length of each boat.
And what are the types of boats?
Whatever we call fixed hulls and then inflatables. And then motor versus human propulsion. I only use that term because Craigslist does.
Mhm.
And can you think of other, I mean, at those two spots, I don't think we can put down kayaks, but I don't think we're going to see many. And then the racks are going to be almost all kayaks.
But, okay, so we have inflatable and you called fixed hull? Is that a meaningful?
I don't know.
Yeah,
Richard,
I've never used that term.
what would you use for a traditional monohull?
Skiff.
It's either a skip, a dinghy, or a,
Well, that's
Tender.
already gotten us into trouble because plenty of people will say my skiff is, well, okay, inflatable and skiff, and then we get to the propulsion question. That can work.
And are we just looking at because obviously the floats, the dinghy docks are determined by within the little slips, but then I'm just trying to figure out exactly what we're counting. Because up alongside those docks, there are tie-ups
Metal
that,
racks, I would count. You mean at Steamboat?
no. In the inner harbor, so the number of boats that are tied up on the edges of the floats. And then the number of boats that are on the very inner harbor that some of them are tied and some of them are lifted up onto the floats.
There's the floats that are right along the stone wall.
Right.
That's definitely in the game. But are there other places where you can just tie something up and it's not a space allocated to you?
Directly opposite that.
The part that's nearest the waterfall, they're not designated slips. They're just tie-up,
That's open space.
open
tie-up.
space. Yeah, so I
any
think we should
open-
check
I think
there.
any open space.
Yeah,
is
that's
what we
not
should
an
be
actual slip or a float. Yeah,
counting. And Richard's right, there is that float.
right,
So the first
right,
float, you can walk down the ramp,
Right.
take a right, and there are rowboats tied up there.
right.
Along the seawall there. Yeah, well, no, by the launch dock.
So there and Steamboat are the two places where you've got
Unassigned spots.
unassigned spots. Yeah.
Mhm. Right. I do it whenever I'm out at Steamboat. I'm not out there all that much this year, but whenever I go, I count dinghies. And the
too.
number 25 is common. There's 25, and actually that seems to be less than in prior years. But that's how many I'm seeing out there. Because of the low tide, there's a lot of the footage, a lot of the rail there isn't used.
At high tide, it looks like, oh, look at all this rum.
Yeah, it looks
At
like
low tide, bam, 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 bam.
the rocks. Okay, so I will come up with a form and share it, and maybe there'll be some editing of that form prior to next Monday, August 18th. And Ron, are you available for that?
for,
Physical survey on
No.
Monday, the 18th?
I don't think it's going to take
No,
I don't think it'll take that long.
contingent. It should, I mean, it's like one person at Steamboat and probably two in town, I would
So
think.
in town, are any of those floats that are running away from the public landing, do they have tie-up space or is that all allocated?
When you say running away from, like when
Well,
you
there's
come
floats
down,
that you can walk out on.
yeah, there's unassigned space along that side nearest the waterfall
Okay.
is
'Cause that- We
unassigned.
should be counting all of that.
I would,
Okay.
yeah, because that's an area that
I
really
see
gets
that as
crowded.
a major
Yeah,
area of dinghy places.
and that's like purgatory if you get assigned, if you're over there, because when it's really low tide,
can't
getting
get
out
out.
of there is
do we
really.
actually have any assignment going on?
No,
No,
there's no specific.
there's no assigned space for dinghies. You
Not
don't-
over
you don't
there,
get-
no, but people do tie up over there.
Right, but, well, I mean, the space has been assigned to dinghies.
Yeah.
But individual dinghies. don't
Not
get an
individuals,
assignment.
no,
Just
but I
wanna-
think that's worthy of a count.
Well,
I think we should be counting the steel racks at Steamboat that are where you have to carry your kayak or your rowboat, because I've seen small dinghies put in there like
Mm.
books.
Mhm.
And that's part of the capacity over there.
So just
Yeah,
make
Steve
note
had-
of that in the survey, that that's where they were.
Right. This is the count along the float. This is the count in the steel rack, et cetera.
Well, then you count that rack. What about the rack at the end of Harbor Road or Avenue? And
Yes,
the
that
rack
should
at the end of Marine and the rack out at Lake Beach. Are all of those gonna be counted too?
yes.
Are those ones that are only built and only hold kayaks, or can you put other dinghies on?
I can't define that. Lake Beach, I know, is a
That's-
two-level rack for slipping a kayak or canoe in or a paddleboard.
That's an interesting exclusionary policy that we've established.
Well, I think
We have dedicated kayak racks.
well, it may also be that they're dedicated for kayak racks because nobody in their right mind would try to carry their rowboat up there.
Which illustrates my observation, which is that if you can drag the kayak up the set of stairs, why don't you just keep going with it and put it in your truck or on top of your vehicle?
Okay, so is that what needs to be surveyed? All of that? All the racks that are operated by the town?
I think we just stick to the saltwater.
Yeah, for now.
Yeah, let's not give, that's a
let's not
bit of a
get on the
boondoggle
gun
out there. I
at all.
would,
Because
yeah.
those are not in the same overcrowding chaos, because whatever the rack space is. You only put one kayak in one kayak space. So I don't know that we really need to be taking a survey of how many kayaks are there on a given morning.
Okay, so Susan, do you plan to participate in this
Yeah,
activity?
I will, unless we had tentative plans to be on Vinyl Haven, but if not, I will definitely, I want to.
Okay, so Susan wants to, that leaves Bob and myself
And Steve said that he wanted to.
and Stephen. So that makes 3, possibly 4 of us, and Liz will have to be determined.
And I think that each location could be done in not even half an
Yeah,
hour.
Not
I need to
long.
be in Rockland shortly, so I need to.
Okay, there will be further communication about this
Thank you.
next Monday. Thank you, Susan, for,
Put an idea
No, yeah, put
and
me on that list.
Thank you for coming so
Love
Put
regularly.
me on the list too.
oh, yes, I've got Richard as a no participation.
Well,
Maybe.
I'm put it as a maybe.
He's a definite maybe. Okay, very good. There'll be more communication about dinghies. There's a lot of things, there's a lot of dialogue about dinghies. Of course, it's been an issue for discussion for quite a long time. There is one more thing I'd like to bring up on the agenda, and that is Harbor and Waterways Ordinance Review and Revisions. And of course, dinghy topic could be part of that subject. The scope of the ordinance here, this is just the cover sheet outlining all of the sections in the ordinance. This is how thick it is in printed pages, including the appendices. Do we as a committee feel that we want to undertake a review and rewrite of the ordinance? And of course, any changes have to be approved by town vote. Town votes are held in June and November. Next feasible referendum date for ordinance revision is June of 26, 9 months away,
I would
10 months.
I would say that at this point, we are in the process of identifying, what does the ground tell us we need to discuss, like dinghies. But once we start getting to, okay, here's the general idea of what we want to do, obviously you're getting into the ordinance. And that would be a time to be looking at the overall ordinance and see if there's terminology and other stuff that should be cleaned up. But I don't know that we want to right off the bat spend our time just going over the ordinance, because as we just saw in terms of dinghies, you want to get to it now and then talk about it in the off season. And the off season would be the time to generically review the ordinance.
I don't think we want to try and do a review of the whole ordinance. I went through that many years ago. We met every 2 weeks, I think, for months with Jeff Nims. That was the final thing he wanted to accomplish before he moved on from Camden.
Who was that?
Jeff Nims,
Jeff
that's a
Nims.
while back.
Yeah, that dates, that determines how long ago it was. I think we need to keep a succinct list of what topics we're dealing with.
Right.
If
No, I
it's-
agree with
If it's
that.
something beyond dinghies, then sure, let's put it in there, but,
We could read through the ordinance and see if there's something that we think needs to
we
be
could,
addressed.
yeah.
You know, and without having to change the whole thing.
Right, just a cleanup.
Uh-huh.
But I think that Rich's point is, like they say, if you call a constitutional convention to deal with your issue, the whole constitution will suddenly
Yeah.
go through the meat grinder and you'll be there forever and you'll agree less when you finish.
Okay, so we have 7 meetings. If our objective was the June town election in 2026, we would have to have our revisions or our recommendations submitted to the town, to the select board by April. And then we've been told that already, that April is kind of the cutoff for preparing to put ordinance issues on the ballot. So we have 7 meetings until that time. Is it feasible that we could accomplish our suggestions for rewrites?
I think it,
It depends on how much we decide to take on.
Okay,
We're just
Right,
going
of
to talk about
course.
the dinghy issue.
makes
or-
sense. So how do we determine what we want to take on?
well, the other question about timing is, are there other people other than the harbor committee would have to talk about any given issue? Because we've discovered that you have, I forget what they all are. There's a lot of people, the planning board can suddenly be interested or whatever. But the other thing is, I think that this particular question, we should hold off to the next meeting when the select board has told us who we are.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know how many people have applied, so maybe it's the same people who are gonna be talking about it. I have no idea. I just know that I'm not up for consideration.
You're not?
No,
You didn't reapply?
no, I'm the only guy, I must be the only person on my
Oh, I
cycle
see what you're saying.
I think
Your
you and I are the only ones.
Your tenure is not
we
expired.
carry over.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. You and I are the only ones. Okay, we have a new committee. Participation by,
I guess
Others
we should
outside the
consider
committee.
this Next meeting. When
well, then
one-
that reduces our meeting
It-
by
It
1.
certainly does, but I think Susan needs to be involved. She can give us a handle on what other boards and committees might have an interest, and Steve Gold certainly has an opinion.
They will. Oh, yes. And honestly, whoever's quotes on the committee doesn't mean that other people who are interested are not part of the conversation that goes on about the dinghies.
Yes, that's true. Now, how would that be, how would participation by others outside the committee be solicited?
Well, we have agendas in public meetings and people come and sit and put their 2 cents worth in.
Well, one way to facilitate that would be to change the timing of the meeting. You know, that was a topic of conversation when this current board first got together. And we decided to keep it where it is, second Tuesday of the month. But I have heard it's expressed to a couple of people that that's not convenient. That's right in the middle of their day.
So what would be the better?
Well, the recommendation is late afternoon.
I'd rather have that
Well,
because 8 is not in the middle of my day.
yeah, right.
I'm perfectly happy with 8 in the morning, thank you.
I'll live with whatever.
Well, it won't be, it'll be I would think it might be a topic of conversation when the new committee gets established. Just because it's been brought up, I think it needs to be re-examined.
Well, I guess I would suggest that I take Elliot's question to heart in that I don't think we want, and I don't think anyone's talking about it, that, well, we'll talk about dinghies. Let's start talking about them in December. No, we've started the conversation. It's fresh in our minds. We see the thing. So I say in September, we continue the conversation with who's ever on the board and get it moving with the idea that by December, we hopefully have whatever the proposals are to be considered by the select board or whomever else they want to get opinions from. I don't see why it has to take a long time to, once we have the facts of where our space is available and how are they being used, how long
Okay,
does it take to come up with an idea?
address dinghies, well, we've got it on the table
Right.
right now. I'm curious, can anybody cite particular sections of the ordinance that they feel needs work? Ron, can you think of anything right off the bat?
Just off
that's
the
in your
top of
mind?
just off the top of my head, the definitions of what's a dinghy, what's a skiff, what's a tender. I mean,
That's all part of it.
The dinghy thing.
I think the other thing was Ron's talk about, could we be sort of redesigning the matrix of moorings if there's not enough demand for small ones?
Mooring,
Are we able to allocate some of those smaller ones to bigger boats where there is higher demand?
mooring management. I'll just call
yeah.
that.
That's-
Mooring management.
That's it.
Richard, do you have any one thing in the,
No,
no? Okay, very good. I do. I think definitions can be cleaned up.
In general.
Yeah, I think they could be gone through and added to, and maybe there's some things that are obsolete. But I've often gone back to definitions and there's nothing there. Mooring specifications. And we do have an exhibit for mooring specifications. And I haven't gone over that recently.
Now, is that referring to like chain size and stuff or what?
yeah,
Yeah, more, I think it's Appendix E is moorings, but I think that maybe we could look at that a little bit. Dock extensions, and we had a lot of dialogue about the Lyman Morris dock extension back in 2024, was it not just last year that we?
yeah, it was not too long ago.
We had that, and they installed that dock extension, but there was talk about, what, are there limits on dock extensions? And it appeared that there weren't any. So those are just some things.
Yeah, I think that was a question that we were deciding it based on the ordinance, but I can't tell you what they were, but I remember thinking, well, there are some chinks in the armor of what does the ordinance mean, and did it really intend to mean that?
Uh-huh.
Or should it still?
Right. So I think it would be helpful for each of the members of the committee to consider what ordinance sections might deserve a review.
Again,
And,
I do, go ahead.
and share those and decide which ones we want to take on.
And I guess at that point, I'd say the caution still is, if we start taking on too many questions, we'll end up 2 years from now still looking to make a
Still looking at the
proposal.
list, right?
Yeah, right.
Well, I mean, part of it is going to be limiting our conversation to our scope. We may not have any latitude to dictate to the harbor master how he manages the mooring field. We may be able to introduce ordinance, but as it stands right now, it's more policy than rules regarding
Right, but at
a
the
lot
same-
of management of the harbor.
presumably the harbor master also wants to, it's probably a fine line between anytime you make a change, oh, that requires thought, effort, and bruised populace. At the same time, it's in everyone's interest to get the mooring field fully utilized. And if there are actually small boat moorings that are sitting there getting weed on them, that's not serving anyone's purpose.
Well, there are big boat moorings sitting there getting weeds on them too. And it's that unfortunately is inherent in the ordinance. It's one of those things that's kind of built in that if, in theory,
Are you saying that those are unallocated to people, or just people have them, but they're not using them the way they're meant to?
they have them, but they're not using them. And we always, whenever we start talking about moorings, run into the liability problem.
Yeah.
And that is built into the ordinance as well. The ordinance requires that you notify the harbor master if you're not going to use your mooring. And that infers that he'll make use of it somehow. And that just
I got a
presents a
big problem
problem.
with that.
Yeah, well, we all do.
Yeah.
And so that may be something that needs to be
Right.
noted as something in the ordinance that needs to be talked about. Whether we can make a change that helps us allocate the limited resource or not, that's the question. I mean, unless something really radical, like all the moorings are owned by the town, so the town has total management over them and accepts the liability.
And has to invest in them.
It has to buy them,
Yes.
has to buy the gear, which is really all you have to sell. The town already owns.
Yeah.
No, the town doesn't own the space, but the town manages the space that the mooring is in. So, there's, there may be some,
It gets very messy very quickly.
well, it gets messy unless we introduce some sort of a radical change that helps to solve the problem.
I'm ready to move on to my day.
Okay, very good. Meeting adjourned,
Thank you.
9:55 a.m. Okay.
Thank you, Elliot.
Okay, Ron.